Princess Hannah ran through the smoke-filled halls of the royal palace. Her white dress was torn and dirty. Blood trickled from a cut on her cheek. Behind her, she could hear the heavy boots of Void Empire soldiers. "Find the princess. The Emperor wants her alive," a soldier shouted. Hannah ducked into a side passage. Her heart beat fast in her chest. Just this morning, she had been preparing for a diplomatic meeting. Now her father, the king, was dead. Her mother, her brothers, her sisters, all gone. The Void Empire's attack had been swift and cruel. She was the last of the royal family of New Joseon. Hannah reached a junction in the corridor and paused to catch her breath. The palace shields had fallen 3 hours ago. The royal guards had fought bravely, but they were no match for the Empire's advanced weapons. One by one, they had fallen protecting her. "Your Highness," Captain Sung had said with his dying breath, "go to the old chamber. The Forbidden Zone. There is something there that might save you." Hannah had never been allowed in the Forbidden Zone. It was sealed by her ancestors 5 generations ago. But now, she had no choice. She turned left, heading deeper into the palace. The sounds of fighting grew distant. This part of the palace was older, with stone walls instead of the modern materials used elsewhere. Dust covered the floor. No one had been here in years. At the end of a long corridor, she found it. A massive door made of dark metal. Ancient symbols were carved into its surface. A keypad next to it glowed with a faint blue light. Hannah pulled out the royal pendant from around her neck. It was more than just a symbol of her status. It was a key to the kingdom's most important secrets. She pressed it against the keypad. The symbols on the door lit up one by one. A deep rumbling sound came from behind the wall. The door slowly opened. Cold air rushed out. Hannah shivered as she stepped inside. The room was large and round. In the center stood a massive cylinder made of glass and metal. Inside the cylinder was something Hannah couldn't quite see. A shape, dark and still. Screens along the walls lit up as she entered. Ancient text scrolled across them, too old for her to read. But there were images too, pictures of war, of destruction on a scale she could barely imagine. And something else, a creature bigger than a normal human, fighting on battlefields. "What is this place?" she whispered. A computer voice answered, speaking in an ancient form of her language. "Weapons storage facility. Chimera soldier program. Subject K-93. Warning. Extremely dangerous." Hannah approached the cylinder. As she got closer, she could see what was inside. A being that looked almost human, but was not. It was huge, at least 8 feet tall, with skin that seemed too thick and gray. Its arms were massive, ending in hands that could crush stone. Its face was human-like, but with features that were too sharp, too predatory. "A monster," she breathed. "My ancestors locked away a monster." The sound of explosions came from outside. The Empire's soldiers were getting closer. Hannah looked at the cylinder again. The creature inside was in some kind of sleep. According to the screens, it had been this way for over 200 years. Subject K-93. Chimera soldier, designed for combat in extreme conditions, the computer voice said. "Caution. Subject displayed independent thought and refused orders. Containment recommended." Hannah understood then. This wasn't just a monster. It was a weapon from the old wars, a living weapon that had started to think for itself. More explosions rocked the palace. The door to the Forbidden Zone burst open. Imperial soldiers poured in, weapons raised. "Surrender, princess," their leader said. "The Void Empire now rules New Joseon." Hannah looked at the soldiers, then at the sleeping creature in the cylinder. She made her choice. She pressed her royal pendant against the cylinder's control panel. "Emergency release activated," the computer said. The glass began to slide away. The creature's massive chest rose and fell as it took its first breath in centuries. Hannah knelt before the awakening beast. "Please," she whispered. "Help me." The glass cylinder opened with a hiss. Cold vapor poured out and spread across the floor. The Imperial soldiers raised their weapons, unsure what was happening. "Step away from that container," the lead soldier shouted at Hannah. But Hannah stayed where she was, kneeling in front of the cylinder. Her heart beat so hard she thought it might break her ribs. What if this creature killed her first? What if it killed everyone? The Royal Archives had called it dangerous, uncontrollable. Inside the cylinder, the creature's eyes opened. They were deep amber, almost golden. Not the eyes of a beast, but eyes filled with intelligence. They moved slowly, taking in the room, the soldiers, and finally, the kneeling princess before it. The creature's massive chest expanded as it took a deep breath. Then another. Its gray skin began to flush with color. With deliberate movements, it lifted one huge hand and pushed against the remaining glass. The cylinder broke apart completely. "Fire," ordered the Imperial commander. Energy beams shot across the room, hitting the creature's body. But they seemed to do nothing. Where the beams hit, the creature's skin glowed briefly, then returned to normal. The monster stepped forward. It was even bigger than Hannah had thought, towering over her. It looked down at her, head tilted slightly to one side. "You woke me," it said. Its voice was deep but clear. Not the growl of a beast, but the voice of someone who had not spoken in a very long time. "I need help," Hannah said, trying to keep her voice steady. "They've killed my family. They're destroying my world." The creature looked from her to the soldiers, who were backing away slowly, still firing their weapons. "And you are?" it asked the soldiers. "Servants of the Void Empire," their leader said, trying to sound brave. "That royal trash is our prisoner. Stand aside or be destroyed, whatever you are." The creature's face changed, something like a smile, but not friendly at all. "I know empires," it said. "I was made to fight them." In a movement too fast for Hannah's eyes to follow, the creature moved. One moment it was standing next to her, the next it was across the room. Its massive arms swung, sending 3 soldiers flying into the wall. They did not get up. The remaining soldiers tried to retreat, but the creature blocked the door. It grabbed their weapons and crushed them like they were made of paper. "Run," it told them. "Tell your empire what you found here." The soldiers fled, all except their leader. He pulled out a smaller weapon and aimed it at Hannah. "If I can't take you alive, princess, I'll." He never finished. The creature moved again, putting its body between Hannah and the soldier. The weapon fired, hitting the creature in the chest. This time, it flinched. The blast had hurt it. But it kept moving forward, grabbed the soldier by the throat, and lifted him off the ground. "You would kill an unarmed woman?" the creature asked. "Is that what your empire teaches?" "She's not. Just a woman," the soldier gasped. "She's the last of the royal line. The empire wants her dead." The creature studied the soldier's face. 200 years ago, I was ordered to kill civilians. I refused. That's why they locked me away." It set the soldier down. "Go. Tell your empire that she has protection now." The soldier ran from the room. The creature turned back to Hannah, who was still kneeling on the floor, shocked by what she had seen. "You can stand, princess," it said. "I won't hurt you." Slowly, Hannah got to her feet. "What are you?" she asked. "My creators called me Subject K-93. I was a human once, then they changed me. Made me stronger, faster. A perfect soldier." It touched the spot on its chest where the weapon had hit. Mostly perfect. "You can speak. You can think," Hannah said. That was the problem. I was supposed to follow orders without question. The creature looked around the room. "How long was I asleep?" "The records say 200 years, Hannah replied. The creature nodded slowly. "And now there's a new empire. Things don't change much, do they?" "What do I call you?" Hannah asked. "Do you have a name?" The creature was quiet for a moment. "I had a name once. I don't remember it now. The changes they made took things from my memory." Then I'll give you a name, Hannah said. Da. It means greatness in the old language. Da. The creature repeated. I accept this name. It looked toward the door. We should leave. More soldiers will come. Where can we go? Hannah asked. The Empire controls everything. Not for long, Daz said. First, we need to get off this planet. Are there ships we can use? For the first time since the attack began, Hannah felt something like hope. She nodded. Yes. This way. Together, the princess and the awakened beast left the ancient chamber, heading toward an uncertain future. Hannah led Da through the back halls of the palace. Twice they had to hide from Imperial patrols. Once, they could not avoid a group of soldiers. Day dealt with them quickly and quietly, knocking them out without killing them. You don't kill unless you have to, Hannah noticed as they continued moving. Death should be the last choice, not the first, Daz said. Even in war. They reached a small door that led outside. The night air was filled with smoke. In the distance, parts of the city were on fire. Imperial ships flew overhead, their lights cutting through the darkness. The royal shipyard is 2 miles from here, Hannah said. We'll never make it on foot without being seen. Day looked around and pointed to a small transport vehicle nearby. Can you drive that? Hannah nodded. Yes, but the roads will be washed. Then we don't use the roads, Daz said. They moved to the vehicle. It was a simple hover transport used by palace workers. Hannah started it while Dai squeezed his large frame into the passenger seat, which was much too small for him. Instead of taking the main path, Hannah steered the transport into the palace gardens, then through a service gate that led to the outer grounds. They moved slowly, keeping the lights off and staying under the cover of trees when possible. The Empire attacked without warning, Hannah said as they traveled. We were at peace. Why would they do this? Empires always want more, Day replied. In my time, it was the same. Different names, same hunger. They passed a burning village. People were being rounded up by Imperial troops. Hannah wanted to stop and help, but Day put his hand on her arm. We can't save them now, he said. If we're caught, no one will be saved. Hannah knew he was right, but it hurt to keep going. Tell me about your world, Daz said, trying to distract her from the pain of passing by her suffering people. New Joseon was founded by people from old Earth, Hannah explained. We've been here for 10 generations. We kept many old ways while building something new. She pointed to the stars. We had just started to explore other systems when the Void Empire came. And what were you, before today? Dai asked. A princess, 6th in line to the throne. Hannah's voice broke. Now I'm the only one left. They rode in silence for a while. Then Day spoke again. I was a farmer's son, he said, before they took me and made me what I am. Hannah looked at him with surprise. You remember? Small pieces, like looking at a broken picture. Dai stared at his large hands. I remember the feel of soil, the smell of rain on crops. Hannah tried to imagine this massive being as a normal human, working in fields under an open sky. It seemed impossible, yet there was such sadness in his voice that she knew it must be true. They reached the edge of the royal shipyard. Imperial troops were everywhere, guarding the remaining ships. Most of the royal fleet had been destroyed in the first attack. There, Hannah pointed to a small, sleek vessel near the back of the yard. That's a diplomatic shuttle. Fast and well shielded. But how do we reach it? Day studied the yard. I'll create a distraction. When the guards move, run to the ship and start it. Can you fly it? Yes, Hannah said. But what about you? I'll join you, Daz said. Don't worry. I'm hard to kill. Before she could stop him, Dai slipped away into the shadows. A few minutes later, explosions rocked the far side of the shipyard. Alarms blared. The guards ran toward the noise, weapons ready. Hannah ran to the shuttle. Her royal code still worked, opening the door. She jumped into the pilot's seat and started the engines. The ship hummed to life. Outside, more explosions, shots being fired. Hannah's hands shook as she prepared for takeoff. What if Dai didn't make it? What if she had to leave without him? The ship's door opened. Dai squeezed inside, ducking his head under the low ceiling. "Go," he said. "Now." Hannah lifted the ship off the ground. Imperial troops noticed and began firing, but the shuttle's shields held. The ship rose higher, breaking through the clouds, heading for space. "There will be more ships waiting in orbit," Hannah said. "Can we outrun them?" Dai asked. Hannah smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. "This is the fastest ship in the Royal Fleet. Hold on." She pushed the engines to full power. The stars stretched into lines as they shot away from New Josion, leaving behind a world in flames. 3 days passed on the small shuttle. Hannah and Dai took turns watching the controls. They had escaped New Josion, but 6 Imperial ships had followed them. Hannah's skilled flying and Dai's surprising knowledge of space combat tactics had helped them escape. Now they approached Giel Station, a massive ring-shaped structure floating at the edge of Imperial space. The station was home to traders, refugees, and people who wanted to avoid Imperial law. "Will they help us here?" Dai asked, looking at the station through the shuttle's window. "Maybe," Hannah said. "Giel Station stays neutral. They trade with everyone, including the Empire, but they value their freedom." The shuttle docked at the station. When the door opened, Hannah and Dai were met by a group of security officers. "State your business," the lead officer said. Then he saw Dai's massive form and stepped back, hand moving to his weapon. "We seek sanctuary," Hannah said quickly. "I am Princess Hannah of New Josion." The officer looked doubtful. New Josion fell to the Empire 3 days ago. Why would a princess come here instead of seeking help from allied worlds? "Because there are no allied worlds left," Hannah said. "The Empire has taken them all." The officer studied her face, then looked at Dai again. "And what is this, being with you?" "My protector," Hannah said firmly. After a long moment, the officer nodded. "You can stay for now, but keep your friend under control. People here are nervous about strange things." They were given a small room in the lower part of the station. It was meant for one person, so Dai had to duck to enter and could barely stand upright inside. "I'll find us better quarters tomorrow," Hannah promised. "This is fine," Dai said. "I spent 200 years in a tube. This is luxury." The next day, Hannah went to the station's market to learn news and make contacts. Dai stayed in the room. His appearance would attract too much attention. In the market, Hannah heard people talking about New Josion. The Empire claimed they had removed a corrupt royal family. They said Princess Hannah had stolen a dangerous weapon and fled like a coward. "Lies," Hannah whispered to herself. She found a public message terminal and entered an old code. It was a secret channel used by New Josion diplomats in emergencies. She sent a simple message: "The last flower still blooms. Seeking garden." Then she bought food and returned to their room. Dai was standing at the small window, looking out at the stars. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Everything is different," Dai said. "The stars are in the wrong places. The ships are strange designs. The people wear clothes I don't recognize." He turned to her. 200 years is a long time to miss." Hannah placed a hand on his arm. His skin was warm and rough, like leather. "I'm sorry," she said. "No need," Dai replied. "You saved me from endless sleep. Now I can see the stars again." A message alert sounded from the small computer in their room. Hannah checked it. Someone had responded to her coded message. "Garden at the blue door. 1 hour. "We need to go," Hannah said. "Someone from the Resistance wants to meet us." They went to the lower levels of the station, where the corridor lights were dimmer. They found the blue door, a small bar tucked between repair shops. Inside, the air was thick with smoke. Music played softly. A man sat alone at a corner table. He wore simple clothes, but his posture was straight, his eyes alert. When he saw Hana, he stood. "Your Highness," he said quietly. "Who are you?" Hana asked. "Jiho. I was a diplomat for New Joseon before the invasion. Now I work with the resistance." His eyes moved to Da, who stood behind Hana. "And this is Da," Hana said. "He helped me escape." Jiho looked afraid but tried to hide it. "What exactly is he?" "I am a chimera soldier," Da said, "created for war, but seeking peace." Jiho's eyes widened. "The chimeras are just stories, monsters from the old wars." "Not stories," Da said. "I am real." Jiho looked back at Hana. "Princess, we have little time. Imperial agents are on this station. They're looking for you." He lowered his voice. "And they've offered a massive reward for anyone who turns you in." "Where can we go?" Hana asked. "I have friends with a ship. They can take you to a safe world." Jiho glanced at Dai again. "Both of you." Suddenly, the bar's door slammed open. 3 men in plain clothes entered, scanning the room. Their hands rested near hidden weapons. "Imperial agents," Jiho whispered. "We need to leave. Now." "Don't move," Jiho whispered. "There's a back exit." The Imperial agents moved deeper into the bar, looking at each person carefully. One of them showed a small device to the bartender. Probably a picture of Hana. "Too late," Day said. "They're blocking the exits." Hana felt fear rise in her chest. "What do we do?" Day stood up straight, his massive form casting a shadow over their table. "Stay behind me." "Wait," Jiho said. He pulled out a small round device from his pocket. "Cover your eyes." Jiho pressed a button and threw the device toward the Imperial agents. There was a flash of bright light and a loud bang. People in the bar shouted and ran. In the confusion, Jiho grabbed Hana's arm. "Now, run." They rushed through the back door, Da following close behind. They ran through narrow service corridors, turning left, then right, moving deeper into the station. "Where are we going?" Hana asked as they ran. "Safe house," Jiho said. "The resistance has hiding places all over Gael." After many turns, they reached a plain metal door. Jiho pressed his hand to a scanner hidden in the wall. The door opened, revealing a small room filled with computers and communication equipment. 3 people inside looked up as they entered. "This is Moon, Bin, and Yuna," Jiho said. "They're part of the resistance." The 3 nodded at Hana, then stared at Da with wide eyes. "What is that?" Bin asked, reaching for a weapon. "He's with me," Hana said quickly. "He saved my life." The resistance members did not look convinced, but they lowered their weapons. "We've been monitoring Imperial communications," Moon said. She was an older woman with short gray hair. "They're calling you a traitor, Princess. They say you stole a biological weapon and plan to use it against your own people." "That's a lie," Hana said. "Of course it is," Jiho agreed. "But many believe it. The Empire controls most communication channels now." Yuna, a young woman with a scar across her cheek, looked at Da with interest. "So this is the biological weapon they're talking about." "I am a chimera soldier," Da said, "created to fight in the old wars." "A living legend," Bin whispered. "The chimeras could destroy entire armies." "That was a long time ago," Da said. Moon turned to a large screen showing a map of nearby star systems. "We have cells on 12 worlds, but we're scattered and weak. The Empire grows stronger every day." "They think I'm just a weapon," Daz said, looking at the map. "But I was a soldier. I know strategy." He stepped forward and pointed to several points on the map. "Your forces are too spread out. You need to concentrate here and here. Control these trade routes, and you can cut off Imperial supply lines." The resistance members looked surprised. "He's right," Jiho said after studying the map. "We've been fighting like rebels, but we need to think like an army." "I won't be a weapon again," Daz said firmly, "but I will help you fight." Suddenly, Alarms blared throughout the station. A voice came over the public speakers. "Attention all citizens. Imperial cruisers have entered Viol space. The station is now under lockdown. They're searching for us," Hannah said. Bin checked a security screen. "Worse. They'd found one of our cells on level 4. Our people are trapped." "How many?" Jaiho asked. "7 of ours. About 20 Imperial troops." Jaiho shook his head. "We can't help them. We'd never get through." Hannah looked at the screen. The trapped resistance members included an old man and what looked like a teenager. "We have to try." "It's too risky," Moon argued. "The princess is too important to lose." "I'm not more important than they are," Hannah said. She turned to Da. "Can we help them?" Day studied the screen. "Yes, but it won't be easy. The Resistance Council ordered us to get you to safety," Jaiho said to Hannah. "Not to risk your life." Hannah stood straight, looking more like a queen than a princess. "I won't abandon people who are fighting for my world." The resistance members looked at each other. Finally, Jaiho nodded. "Very well, but we do this carefully." Day pointed to the station map. "We'll need to go through these service tunnels. I'll lead, then Hannah, then the rest of you. Stay close." As they prepared to leave, Bin approached Da. "If you really are a chimera," he said quietly, "why help us? Why not join the Empire? They would reward you." Da looked at Hannah, then back to Bin. 200 years ago, humans created me to fight their wars. Then they feared me because I could think for myself." He glanced at Hannah again. She didn't see a weapon. She saw a person. That's worth fighting for. They moved out of the safe house and into the dark corridors, heading toward danger. The rescue mission was a success. Da had moved like a shadow despite his size, taking down Imperial soldiers silently. Hannah had helped the old man, and the young girl escape while Jaiho and the others provided cover. They all made it back to the safe house without losses. 3 days later, they moved to a small resistance ship. The Empire had put too many soldiers on Giel Station. It wasn't safe anymore. On the bridge of the resistance ship, Hannah watched the stars. She thought of her home, now under Imperial control. Jaiho approached and handed her a datapad. "Bad news," he said. "The Empire has assigned their best hunter to find you." The pad showed a man with cold eyes and a stern face. He wore the black and silver uniform of an Imperial admiral. "Ta Yang," Jaiho explained. "The Empire's most decorated commander. He's never failed to catch his target." Day looked at the image over Hannah's shoulder. "He's different from the others," Day said. "His eyes are like those of the scientists who made me. Always thinking, always planning." In his private chamber aboard the Imperial cruiser Void Hammer Admiral Ta Yang studied old records. Most people thought the Chimera soldiers were just stories to scare children. But Ta Yang knew better. He had access to the Empire's secret archives. The Admiral touched the screen, bringing up ancient images of the Chimera program. Soldiers made stronger, faster, nearly impossible to kill. The perfect weapons, until they started to think for themselves. "Sir," a young officer said from the doorway, "we've tracked the resistance ship. They're heading to the Miro asteroid belt." "Good," Ta Yang said. "Prepare my special team. And bring the device." The officer looked nervous. "Sir, the device hasn't been fully tested. It might not work on a chimera." "It will work," Ta Yang said. "The chimeras have one weakness. They were programmed to respond to certain signals. Their creators built in a way to control them, just in case." The Void Hammer changed course, heading for the asteroid belt. On the resistance ship, Hannah met with the leaders of various rebel cells. There were 12 of them, from different worlds taken by the Empire. Some had been fighting for years. "We need to unite our forces," Hannah told them. "Fight as one instead of many small groups." "And who would lead this united force?" asked a man named Gil, who led the rebels from the mining world Paro. "You?" A princess who lost her world in a day. I don't seek to lead, Hannah said. I seek to unite. The princess has wisdom beyond her years, Jai-Ho said, and she has brought us something valuable. He nodded toward Da, who stood quietly at the back of the room. A monster, Gil asked. That's your great hope. Da stepped forward. The rebel leaders moved back, afraid. I am not your hope, Da said. She is. I am just her shield. Alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Bin rushed into the room. Imperial cruiser approaching. It's the asterisk, Void Hammer asterisk. How did they find us so quickly? Moon asked. It's Ta Yang, Jai-Ho said. Somehow he always knows. The ship shook as the first Imperial shots hit their shields. Get to your stations, Jai-Ho ordered. We need to find a place to hide in the asteroid belt. The resistance ship flew into the dense field of rocks. The Imperial cruiser followed, firing whenever they had a clear shot. The smaller resistance ship had the advantage of speed and maneuverability, but the Imperial ship had better weapons and shields. There, Bin pointed to a large asteroid with a deep crater. We can hide there and repair our shields. The ship landed in the crater. All power was shut down to avoid detection. They'll find us eventually, Jai-Ho said. We need a plan. I'll go out, Da offered. Draw them away from the ship. Too dangerous, Hannah said. Even you can't fight an entire Imperial cruiser. I don't plan to fight it, Da said. Just distract it. Before anyone could argue further, a strange sound filled the ship. It was a high-pitched tone that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Da suddenly stiffened. His amber eyes widened, then began to glow with an unnatural light. Da, Hannah asked. What's wrong? Da turned toward her. His face was different somehow. Empty. His voice came out flat and mechanical. Subject K-93 responding to primary command sequence. He took a step toward Hannah. His massive hands clenched into fists. What's happening to him? Hannah asked, backing away. It's Ta Yang, Jai-Ho said. Somehow he's controlling your friend. Da took another step toward Hannah. Target identified, he said in that same empty voice. Elimination protocol engaged. Get back. Jai-Ho pushed Hannah behind him as Da advanced. The other resistance members drew their weapons. Don't hurt him, Hannah cried. It's not his fault. Da moved with frightening speed, knocking two resistance fighters aside. His eyes glowed with that strange light, fixed on Hannah. Target must be eliminated, he said in that flat voice. Da, please. Hannah stepped forward, despite Jai-Ho trying to stop her. This isn't you. Fight it. For a moment, Da paused. Something flickered in his eyes, a hint of his true self struggling to break through. Hannah. He managed to say, his real voice breaking through before the mechanical tone returned. Cannot. Resist. Programming. The high-pitched sound grew louder. Outside the ship, they could hear the Imperial cruiser approaching. They're using sound waves to control him, Moon said. We need to block the signal. Bin rushed to the ship's controls. I can try to create interference, but I need time. Da lunged forward again. Jai-Ho fired his weapon, hitting Da in the shoulder. The blast barely slowed him down. Da, Hannah said, standing her ground. Remember when you first woke up? You had a choice then. You chose to protect me. Da's massive hands reached for her, then stopped inches away. He was fighting the control, his body shaking with effort. They made me to follow orders, he growled, his voice shifting between his own and the mechanical tone. Can't resist. Yes, you can, Hannah said. You did it before. That's why they locked you away. You questioned orders. You made your own choices. Inside Da's mind, memories fought against the programming. He remembered fields of crops under a blue sky. He remembered laboratories and pain. He remembered waking to see a young woman kneeling before him, asking for help. I am not a weapon, he said, fighting each word out. The ship shook as the Imperial cruiser fired on them. Alarms blared. They found us, Yuna shouted. Signal blocker is ready, Bin called. Activating now. A new sound filled the ship, a deep humming that clashed with the high-pitched tone. Day roared in pain, clutching his head. He fell to his knees. Is it working? Jaiho asked. I don't know, Bin said. The Imperial signal is very strong. Hannah knelt in front of Day, just as she had when they first met. Da, look at me. Remember who you are. Day raised his head. The glow in his eyes flickered, dimming and brightening as he fought the control. They want you to be a thing, a tool, Hannah said. But you're not. You're a person. You can choose. Choose, Day repeated. Yes, choose who you want to be, not what they made you to be. The ship rocked again as another blast hit. The lights flickered. Imperial troops are boarding. Yuna called from the viewport. They're cutting through the airlock. Day's eyes cleared suddenly. The glow faded. He looked at Hannah, truly seeing her again. I choose, he said, his voice his own once more. The airlock door burst open. Imperial soldiers rushed in, led by a tall man in a black uniform with silver trim, Admiral Ta Yang himself. Surrender the princess and the chimera, Ta Yang ordered. No one else needs to die. Day stood, placing himself between Hannah and the Admiral. You tried to control me, he said. Ta Yang smiled coldly. And I nearly succeeded. The old programming is still there, buried in your mind. He held up a small device. This transmitter can reactivate it any time I wish. Maybe, Da said, but now I know I can fight it. Ta Yang studied Da with curious eyes. Fascinating. No chimera has ever broken the control signal before. He looked past Da to Hannah. What did she do to help you resist? She saw me as a person, Da said, not a weapon. Something changed in Ta Yang's expression. For a brief moment, he looked almost sad. I've served the Empire for 30 years, Ta Yang said quietly. I've hunted rebels, conquered worlds, followed every order. He looked around at the resistance fighters. And what has it brought? More fear, more hate. You could choose differently, Hannah said, stepping up beside Da. Like Da did. Ta Yang considered her words. Then he made a signal to his soldiers. They lowered their weapons. Perhaps, he said, it's time someone did. 3 months passed. The resistance grew stronger each day. With Admiral Ta Yang's help, they learned the Empire's secrets, weak points, and plans. Many Imperial soldiers, tired of the Empire's cruelty, joined them. Today was the day they would return to New Joseon. Hannah stood on the bridge of their flagship, once an Imperial cruiser, now repainted with the blue and silver colors of her homeworld. Day stood beside her, as always. Over the past months, she had helped him recover more of his memories. He remembered his real name now. Da had been close enough. Are you ready? Hannah asked him. Yes, Da said. Are you? This was your home. Hannah looked at the blue planet growing larger on the view screen. It still is, and we'll free it today. Ta Yang entered the bridge. He no longer wore an Imperial uniform, but simple clothes like the other resistance fighters. The fleet is in position, he reported. 20 ships, including 5 Imperial cruisers that joined our cause. And the ground teams? Hannah asked. Ready to drop once we clear the orbital defenses. Jaiho, now the Resistance's chief strategist, brought up a map of the capital city. The Imperial governor lives in your old palace, he told Hannah. He has 2,000 troops protecting him. And the people? Hannah asked. How have they been treated? Poorly, Ta Yang said. Heavy taxes, harsh punishments. Many have been sent to labor camps. Hannah's face hardened. Then we don't wait any longer. Begin the attack. The battle for New Joseon was fierce but shorter than expected. Many Imperial soldiers surrendered when they saw their former admiral fighting alongside the resistance. Da led the ground assault, unstoppable as he pushed toward the palace. Ta Yang commanded the space battle, destroying the Imperial ships that remained loyal to the Empire. By nightfall, the palace was surrounded. The Imperial governor had nowhere to run. Hana walked up the steps of her childhood home, now damaged by battle. Dai and Tai Yang flanked her, with Jai Ho and other resistance leaders behind them. Imperial soldiers threw down their weapons as they passed. In the great hall, the governor waited. He was a small man with cruel eyes, sitting on the throne that once belonged to Hana's father. "So," he said when he saw her, "the princess returns." "I am not here as a princess," Hana said. "I am here as a citizen of New Joseon, speaking for its people." "And what do the people want?" the governor asked with a sneer. "Freedom," Hana said simply. "The freedom to choose their own path." The governor looked at Dad with hate and fear. "You bring monsters to fight your battles." "There is only one monster here," Dad said, "and it is not me." The governor was arrested. Messages were sent to all parts of New Joseon, announcing the end of imperial rule. The next day, Hana stood before a crowd in the main square of the capital. They had come to hear her speak, to see the princess who had returned to save them. "People of New Joseon," she began, "I stand before you not as your ruler, but as your equal. The old royal family is gone. The empire is defeated. Now we must decide together what comes next." The crowd was silent, listening. "I propose a council, chosen by the people, to govern until proper elections can be held. I will serve on this council if you wish, but only as one voice among many." Murmurs of surprise and approval spread through the crowd. "We have learned a valuable lesson," Hana continued. "True strength comes not from power over others, but from standing together as equals." She turned and motioned for Dai to join her. He stepped forward, towering over everyone. Some people in the crowd still looked afraid of him. "This is Da," Hana said. "Without him, I would not be alive, and New Joseon would still be under imperial rule. He was created to be a weapon, but he chose to be a protector instead." Hana knelt before Dai, there in front of everyone. A gasp went through the crowd. "I kneel not in fear or submission," she explained as she rose, "but in respect and gratitude. In recognition that wisdom can come from unexpected places, and that true humanity is found not in what we look like, but in the choices we make." Day bowed his head to her, then to the crowd. "I chose to protect," he said in his deep voice. "That is what makes me more than what I was made to be." Word of what happened on New Joseon spread quickly. Other worlds under imperial control began to rebel. Representatives came to meet with Hana, Dai, and Tai Yang, seeking help for their own fights for freedom. A new alliance was forming, one built on choice rather than force, on protection rather than power. And at its heart stood a princess and a beast, showing the galaxy what humanity could truly be.